If you have gyno, then you are going to need to pay particular attention to your diet. And this will need to be a detailed approach. Now, the problem here is that in truth, there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all diet that's going to suit absolutely everyone or work for everyone in exactly the same way. So the best thing we can do is consider some basic rules and guidelines. Now, most important, you need a varied and balanced diet containing all macros and micros. A deficiency in any macro or micronutrient can cause health issues, and many deficiencies can disrupt hormone production. Avoid seed oils and vegetable oils. If you must fry anything, use olive oil, coconut oil, or even better, animal fats. Better still, don't fry. Use other cooking methods like grilling or oven baking, for example. Also consider eating more foods raw. Now, I would recommend that anything that can be consumed raw without cooking it, then do so, especially when consuming vegetables, because any cooking methods will reduce their nutrient value. Now, here is a valuable rule that applies for all diets. If it does not occur naturally in nature, it's best avoided. If it's been manufactured in any way, and there is a lot of stuff out there in the marketplace that has, it's best avoided. Now, you should cut out all processed foods and fast food from your diet. These foods are full of empty calories and are usually stuffed with added salt, added sugar and chemical preservatives. All of these things can make gyno harder to reverse. All of these things can also contribute towards gyno. And also many of these foods come in cans or plastic containers, and these often contain hormone disrupting chemicals. So, they're just bad news, processed foods. Many takeouts also contain trans fats, and yes, some countries have banned trans fats, but the fast food outlets circumnavigate this law by including trans fats in what they call fat blends. Now, fast food has, in reality, no real nutritional value. It's also processed food. It's bad for your testosterone anyway, so just cut it out from your life completely. Now, when it comes to processed food, also consider that things like pasta, bread, and pasteurized milk are manufactured, and this means that to a certain degree they are processed. Bear that in mind. Also, if you have gyno, it's a good idea to moderate your intake of dairy products. Many of these products contain hormones from the animals that produce them. Consuming too much could mean that you are feeding yourself female hormones. Milk in particular, consumed in large amounts, has been linked with actually causing gyno in some studies. Milk is also considered to be rich in estrogen. You do not need to cut dairy out completely, but as it can be very beneficial to health. And of course, dairy products are good sources of protein, but just be aware that they contain female hormones. And be aware that whey protein, many guys consume whey protein as a post-workout. But remember, whey protein is a milk protein isolate. A good alternative to using protein powder is to just consume 4 to 6 raw eggs. Either just put them in a glass and drink them back on their own, or add a little filtered water, give it a good old stir to help it go down a little easier. Alternatively, you can make your own natural milk using a blender. Just take 1 banana, a little bit of water, 4 raw eggs, throw it all into a blender and blend it all up, and you have a naturally highly nutritious post-workout drink that's completely natural, contains no additives or anything or chemicals, and provides you with 28 grams of protein. That's a good thing to consider as well if you have gyno. Now, consume a diet based on whole foods. Now, a whole food is one that consists of only one ingredient. Often people consider things like pasta or wholemeal bread to be healthy options, but they don't contain just one ingredient. In a manner of speaking, they are processed foods. And, always try to avoid food items that contain a list of ingredients. Don't forget that not everything is as it seems. Something that you might think of as a whole food can actually contain a list of ingredients and preservatives and things. So it's always a good idea to check the ingredient label on anything that you buy. Now, again, I'll mention this again, if it doesn't occur naturally in nature, it's not a whole food. It's best to avoid it. Obvious one here, cut out sugary foods and drinks. If you can cut out sugar completely, much more preferable. Certainly cut out all refined processed sugar. Remember that sugar can spike insulin, and high levels of insulin are bad for hormonal balance. You should be looking to include plenty of meats, fish, fruits, legumes, vegetables, and natural whole grains. Eggs in particular are good for testosterone. They are packed with nutrients, they provide good amounts of cholesterol, good source of protein, and they also have a low saturated fat content. Organ meats such as liver and kidneys are excellent for this purpose too. When it comes to cholesterol, always remember that too much cholesterol can be just as harmful as having not enough cholesterol. Now, just consuming cholesterol does not guarantee the body will use it to produce testosterone if the body is out of sync. Bear this in mind. It's important to balance out your cholesterol levels as well as it's important to balance out your whole body. Cholesterol only ever becomes unhealthy when we allow an excess to build up within the body. This occurs when our body is not using it all up efficiently. I'll be making a video soon on how to get our bodies to utilize cholesterol more efficiently and to help balance out your cholesterol levels. That will be coming to the channel soon. It works because I've been consuming cholesterol for decades, and when I had my blood tested, my cholesterol levels are normal, so what I'm doing actually works. Now, with Gyno, the objective is to reduce excess tissue. So, of course, it's best to avoid any bulking diet, at least for the time being, until your hormones are balanced out. Now, for helping to blast off excess buildup of fat and tissue, keto or low-carb animal-based diets could be useful to help you in kickstarting this process. But remember that carbs, fruit and vegetables are also essential for bodily optimization. So when observing any restrictive diet, try to avoid staying on that diet for too long. Now, if you prefer to go plant-based, and I'm not an advocate of the vegan diet, although I do consume a lot of plant foods. After all, plant foods are natural whole foods that occur naturally in nature. If you're going to opt for plant-based, I would strongly recommend including lots of eggs with that and plenty of extra virgin olive oil. You need to consume adequate cholesterol in your diet to optimize testosterone and hormone production. An unavoidable fact, hormones are made with cholesterol. Vegan diets tend to be cholesterol deficient. Both keto and carnivore in particular are excellent diets for losing weight and getting rid of excess fatty tissues in the body. These diets can also increase testosterone in the first few months. This is usually due to the increased fat and cholesterol intake. However, long-term, a varied and balanced diet is the best diet for testosterone, including all macros and micros. Any nutrient deficiencies can have a negative effect, especially when you allow the deficiency to occur for a longer duration. At some point in time, your body is going to require some carbohydrate and dietary fibre input. Now, just bear this in mind. Now, we're all different. We all have different calorific and nutritional requirements. By applying a few ground rules and then seeking to tweak and modify your diet to suit your own needs is the best strategy that you can employ. Experiment with your diet, observe the results and go from there. And myself, it's taken me more than 2 decades to tweak and modify my diet to what I believe today to be optimum for me, but even then I'm still tweaking and modifying my diet all the time. It's quite a complicated process, really. Now, if I were asked to say whether carnivore, keto, animal-based or plant-based is the best for this purpose of blasting off excess tissue, I'm biased towards either keto or animal-based. This is because these two options provide more of a variety of foods, along with sufficient fat and cholesterol intake, which is important, and it's also possible to get some carb and fibre intake with these two approaches as well. However, the best diet by far for testosterone and for a balanced body in the long term is the omnivore diet, which includes a bit of everything, a variety of whole foods. When it comes to dropping excess body tissue, then eating low starch carbs from fruit and vegetables is certainly going to be the best approach for most men. If you experience any form of energy crash at any time, then maybe add some potatoes, legumes, or even rice a few times a week. But if you're adding these foods to your diet, be aware of the starch content and insulin. Now, warnings. When it comes to buying vegetables, I suggest that you carry out some research on a commonly used produce coating called Apeel, APEEL. Now, this is basically a layer of acetate or a silicone, some kind of silicone derivative, which is used to prolong the life of fruits and vegetables. And it's allegedly it's good for the environment and to prevent food waste, but obviously it's to increase profit because the produce can remain on the shelf for sale longer. This coating contains hormone disrupting chemicals and should be avoided by everyone. This coating transforms a natural whole food into a processed food, and I've got an example here to show you. If you look at this apple, it looks like a fresh apple. There's no blemishes. It hasn't wrinkled in any way. There's no bruising on it or anything. We're now, it's the 9th of June today. I bought that in the last week of April. It's more than 2 months old and has not shown any signs of decomposition. This is because it's been sprayed, and it's not that hard, not that easy to decipher the difference. Now, what I usually do, this is a way that you can employ to be certain, is that if you look at this orange, you'll notice that there are lots of imperfections in the surface of this orange. There are blemishes and it's imperfect. Always, if you're shopping in a supermarket, always look to choose the ones that look a bit rustic, a bit imperfect and a bit completely natural. If they're all, looking, brilliant and they're shiny and they look brand new. And I've been in the supermarket and I've noticed that the majority of people select these cleaner, perfect looking items over the ones that are less than perfect like this. And little than many people realise this is toxic. Now, when it comes to buying meats, you also need to be aware of laboratory grown meats, and these are also packed with toxins. Again, lab grown meats are a processed food. It's taking the concept of a clean, whole, natural food and converting it into an unnatural processed food. Now, if you live in the United Kingdom, the United States and many other Western countries, then there is a high chance that lab-grown meats are in your marketplace right now. Most ground beef now available in Western supermarkets is lab-grown. With the keto diet, now back to the keto diet, I'll just give you those warnings because this is something you need to be aware of. It's not going to help your gyno recovery in the slightest if you start consuming shit like this. With the keto approach, the usual strategy is to be aiming for around 10 to 15% of total calorific intake to be from carbs, 30 to 35% from protein, and the rest of your calorific intake coming from fats. When combined with an intense physical training program, no worries because the body will make use of all that fat. When it comes to carbs and blasting away excess body tissue, the best approach by far is to get your carbs from fruits and vegetables. Also, selecting foods that are lower in starch will help to prevent spiking insulin. So this approach has more than one benefit. Now, to give you an example, a few examples here. 3 ounces of watermelon contains 11 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of strawberries contains 13 grams of carbs. If you're in the United Kingdom, that's approximately 100 grams. 1 peach contains 14 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of blueberries, 21 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of cherries, 25 grams of carbs. 32 grapes contain roughly 28 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of raspberries, 15 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of pineapple, 22 grams of carbs. 1 apple, average sized apple, 25 grams of carbs. Obviously, not one like this. 3 ounces of cantaloupe melon contains 13 grams of carbs. A single orange, 15 grams of carbs. A large mango, 25 grams of carbs. And 1 banana, average sized banana, 27 grams of carbs. Now, vegetables tend to contain carbs at much lower quantities, and this is due to them not having natural sugar content. However, they do contain more fibre, something to bear in mind. Now, an average sized avocado contains 13 grams of carbs and 10 grams of fibre. Now, 10 to 20 grams of fibre is probably a ballpark figure that you want to be aiming for, at least 10 grams of fibre per day, but not exceeding, say 20 or 25 grams of fibre. Yes, the body needs fibre. Not enough fibre is detrimental. Too much fibre is also detrimental. Now, 1 medium-sized sweet potato contains roughly 33 grams of carbs, bearing in mind it's high starch. The same with a sweet potato, 21 grams of carbs. Again, a high starch food. 1 carrot, 6 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of broccoli, 10 grams of carbs. 3 ounces of cabbage, 6 grams of carbs. Now, those last 3, of course, are cruciferous vegetables, which are beneficial to gyno. And these are all natural whole foods. Now, with the carnivore diet, often carb intake is very low or it's practically non-existent. So just adding a few pieces of fruit or vegetables a day is going to make a huge difference. In my opinion, just my opinion, carnivore is probably most effective observed in a cycle if you want to try this diet. For example, you could go 1 month carnivore followed by a month of animal-based with some carbs from fruits and vegetables added. During the carnivore period, be aware of and take care of any potential nutrient deficiencies because, of course, nutrient deficiencies are one of the enemies of testosterone. Now, if I was in the position of having gyno myself, I would begin my campaign by utilising keto, but I would also include 3 days per week where my carb intake would be a little increased to avoid any energy crash from carb deficiency. So that would be 4 keto days and 3 increased carb days per week. On these increased carb days, I would consume foods such as potatoes, legumes and whole grains. This would be combined with exercise, of course, and observing an effective conditioning strategy. This is the best approach to reducing the excess tissue in the chest and in reducing the appearance of gyno. A keto approach can be a very useful tool for you to utilize for this purpose. Now, connected to diet, another thing that is going to help is intermittent fasting. Doing an intermittent fast maybe once or twice per week will also be very useful. Be careful at all times not to ever put your body into a state of severe calorific deficit for long periods of time. And this includes when you're observing any weight loss program as well, because this can negatively affect testosterone production. When I fast, I usually do 16 and 8 fast, intermittent fast. On fasting day, I will wake up really early in the morning. I always wake up really early in the morning. About 6 a.m. I will consume my breakfast and then I will train. Then at 11 o'clock I will eat another meal, usually a smaller meal but with moderate to high fat content. Then I take a high calorie lunch at about 1 p.m. and this includes adequate protein, fat and moderate carb intake. Then at 2 o'clock my fast begins and lasts until at least 6 a.m. the following day. During the fast you can drink water or tea and coffee with zero milk or sugar. Adding a weekly fast to your routine will be very beneficial. Of course, regular consumptions of food such as extra virgin olive oil, ginger, garlic, nuts, chilies are really good for promoting testosterone production and should be included in your diet. Increasing or optimizing your testosterone production in every and any way you can is also going to help you to reduce estrogen and lessen the effects of gyno. So you should be including as many of those testosterone friendly foods in your diet as you can on a regular basis. Subscribe to this channel and follow this series for more.